Hello again, this is Mr. Naughton, and we are doing our lesson on family birth order, continuing our unit for mental health. So, as you know, or as you now found out, birth order is a factor which can influence behavior and personality. And what we're going to talk about in this lesson today is in what order you were born in, how that influences your behavior, how that influences your personality, and what type of behavioral and personality traits most of us get from the order of our birth. So we're going to start off with the firstborn in a multiple child family. The firstborn is usually confident, determined, a born leader, and organized. Some famous firstborns: Oprah Winfrey and President Franklin Roosevelt. In fact, more than half of our US presidents were actually firstborn children. 21 of the first 23 astronauts were also firstborn children, and two-thirds of entrepreneurs in major CEOs of companies are also firstborn children. So, as you can see, very powerful natural leaders, firstborn children. So, some positives that come, or pluses that come from being the firstborn. Being the firstborn child usually puts them in control over the children that come after them, over their younger siblings. Can become very organized, conscientious, serious. Firstborns tend to be more scholastically minded, more competitive when it comes to doing well in school. They can at times be more reliable, and they can be a good planner. They're often looked to be more reliable and be good planners and serious because of the younger siblings that they tend to take over and care for at times. Some minuses or some negatives that could come from being the firstborn: they can tend to be perfectionists. They can be moody at times. They can be overly critical, stubborn, skeptical, very, very tense, driven to the fact of maybe overdriven, and they tend to find flaws in themselves and in other people. So when the firstborns are choosing a career, they often choose careers that require a high degree of precision, like law, medicine, or architecture, where there's no gray area in the work field. They have an opportunity to be in control, be the boss, or owner of the company. They do not like to be told what to do. They have a hard time with, often have a hard time with creative projects. They do not work well if there is no direction, so they will not be gravitating towards jobs like sales, advertising, art, or music because there's no structure and they believe there is no stability in those careers. The middle children, the flexible peacekeepers, the negotiators, the loyal friends. As you can see, our middle child right here in between being the referee, knowing how to keep the peace. Famous middle children: Donald Trump, Julia Roberts, and Martin Luther King Jr. Some pluses, some positives that come from being a middle child: they tend to have intense loyalty. They are a good negotiator because they tend to deal with both the older and younger sibling, so they see both sides. They can be competitive. They want to be recognized just like the oldest and just more like the youngest as well. They tend to be more well adjusted because of the fact that they do have an older sibling and a younger sibling, one that looks after them and one that they look after. So they're more well adjusted. They tend to be more social and friendly. They get more opportunities to hang out with the siblings, the older brother or sister's friends and younger brothers or sisters' friends, so they have more of a social connection and they tend to be more friendly. Master compromiser, as you can see, like master peacekeeper, and very, very patient. Some minuses or some negatives that they have is they can often feel inferior to others for being the middle child. They will avoid confrontation when they can. They'll feel squeezed or closed in, and that would they tend to hide their feelings, and also they can become easily embarrassed in situations. Middle children tend to choose careers that let them or allow them to be creative, like art, advertising, or a career that requires negotiations, like sales. They will be well suited for management levels because of their level-headedness and their ability to be unbiased and be peacekeepers. They do not do well with a hierarchy system. They do not like strict rules. They prefer to work at their own pace, and therefore they tend to not complete tasks on time. They do not work well with details. They do not work well with cut and dry material. They prefer to make things more creative than they're actually needed to. The last born, the baby of the family, the center of attention, loves the attention, is often very affectionate, can be manipulative, and very, very persistent. Famous babies, Jerry Seinfeld and Eddie Murphy. As you can see, we chose comedians because famous babies tend to be comedians because they tend to be able to put on acts or shows for their older siblings, and they tend to be the showmen or showwomen in the family. Some pluses is they become very tolerant. They have a sense of humor. Thus, the many famous comedians are last born or the babies. They are very easygoing. They're spontaneous. They can be caring and sensitive, and they're also affectionate. Some negatives or some minuses is they can be impulsive or immature, thus being called the baby in the family. Irresponsible, sometimes being a risk taker. Not very organized, will manipulate to get their way. Often self-centered, thus again from being the baby in the family and usually getting what they want. Rebellious and secretive at times. The last born tend to focus on careers in sales or invention corporations because they are ability to talk to people and sell things. They work well alone, but they want to be the boss, and they want to do the thing at their own pace. They don't want to be tied down to a commitment. They can sometimes be perceived as cutthroat or too hard at times. Alternate routes in life may make them the odd man or woman out. They don't like to be tied down. They like to be constantly moving around and doing different things. Only children, the super firstborn. Nancy Reagan, Chelsea Clinton, Ted Koppel, some famous only children. Only children tend to mature faster. They tend to get along with older people because older people are the majority of the people that they are growing up with. They all tend to be responsible, self-centered for obvious reasons. They are the only child, so they are the only one that the parents look to for expectations. So they can tend to be perfectionists. They can obviously seek attention, not just from the parents, from other people. They, especially at a younger age, they will use adult language more often. They prefer adult company because that is what they feel comfortable with. And they have difficulty sharing because they usually don't have to share with anyone, especially when they were growing up as a child. Everything they got was theirs and no one else's. Only children tend to choose careers similar to those of the firstborn, like law, medicine, and architecture. They also like black and white concepts. They prefer to be alone, work alone, or be their own boss. They do not like to be told what to do. They do not like to be in teamwork situations or take on too much responsibility. They may not respond well to criticism and therefore may not improve on those areas that are flawed. Some feelings in only children is I didn't do well as I should have. Sometimes I feel lonely. They get a feeling of loneliness without a brother or a sister. They feel like they'd be much happier with a brother or sister, and even if they're the ones that are the center of attention, they often feel like they're not getting enough attention. When we're talking about twins, as you can see, the top level is the A twin, and the bottom level of this slide is the B twin. Usually, with twins, one will take on the A traits and one will take on the B traits. And the A traits are resembling the firstborn, the outspoken, opinionated, aggressive, and loud. And then the B traits tend to take on the middle children, quiet. They can be shy, a loner, or blend in the background. Now, this isn't always the case with twins, but more likely than often, this is the case where they will take on these two different personality traits and character traits because they want to be their own person. So this is where they tend to differ. Some famous twins, the Olsen twins, they were famous when Mr. Naughton was your age, and Dylan and Cole Sprouse, Sweet Life from the Disney TV show. You should know who they are. So with twins, they have twice the connections, twice the references. They have someone to bounce ideas off of. They often work together, especially earlier on in their childhood, so they have basically two minds instead of one. Most of the time, they'll choose a career that's different from their twin, sometimes the exact opposite, because they want to be their own individual, and they feel their need to stand out and therefore try to go above and beyond. Also, at times, they can feel lost, and they may not be able to take being alone very well. If the leader of the two, he or she may try to overshadow others, as he or she try to do with a twin. If the follower of the two, he or she may look for another person to be their mother hen to look out for them. So, when we're talking about a family, whether you are an only child, a firstborn, a middle child, or a youngest child, siblings usually will have pleasant and unpleasant feelings about their siblings from time to time. 80% of people have siblings, so the majority of us have a brother or a sister, whether they're older or younger. So we pretty much know what we're doing and what's going on with growing up with another person or similar to our age in the household. This is just a quick overview about the oldest, middle, baby, and only child. Usually, as you can see, characteristics and family situations, just something that we saw already. Family qualities, these are qualities of parents in the relationship. They should be problem solvers, they should communicate, they should allow their children and themselves to share their feelings, they should try to keep the family close, also be tolerant of change because change happens in children as well as adults. You have to make sure that you keep your common values, make sure that your children and you understand about intimacy, and make sure that the children always know who is in charge. That's the one big thing that I think as parents they should always understand, that they're not there to be your friends. They're there to be in charge and show you and model for you the way to be successful. That's all we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Keep listening if you're listening. Until next time, this is Mr. Naughton signing out.